Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to what is probably going to be our last video on the 1.9 patch for Victoria 3, because 1.10 drops next week. This is a bit of a world conquest Germany, because the German market is the only thing that exists except for in colonized areas. This was a game I was actually planning to go until the year 2000 with, to see how high I could get the population counter over here. But 1.10 dropping next week means this save is going to be defunct soon, and so instead I decided to just see how high I could get the GDP by the end of the game, because the game ends in a few days. And this this kind of got a little out of hand. The reason why my construction is at where it's at 33,000 is because this is roughly getting to the point where the private pool was hitting 1,000 constructions, and once it hits 1,000, it cannot queue up any more constructions. Yes, that is 27 billion in the investment pool. No, I cannot use it all because the construction is literally hitting its capacity. I could set up more construction to employ even more people. Unemployment is only at 9 million, though. The workforce ratio is growing very slowly because of the low mortality rate. I have not quite begun to use automation in a lot of my buildings as well. If we go over here, for example, a lot of them are not using steam donkey and rail transportation, except for a few hyperstates that I've built up. Even those aren't really using full automation yet. So arguably, if I were to double construction and just use the taxation system, I could easily employ way more people. Like this 21 billion GDP, which capped out at just under 21.6 before falling because of fluctuation. Excuse me, still recovering from being ill. This is definitely not the highest GDP you could get by the end of the game in Victoria 3. It is high, without any exploits, without cheese, but it's not the highest that you could get. This is something anyone can do, presuming your computer can last the whole duration, because this game is having quite the lag fest. It's fine right now with nothing going on, and I've preloaded the population chart, but this thing took several seconds to load. When I go to a new week, and the investment pool has to make 100 calculations, it takes a little bit. Not too long, but it takes a bit to queue up some buildings. And this is with graduated taxation by the end of the game, interventionism, corporate state, so we have 7 companies. A lot of laws. Women's suffrage was enacted at the tail end of this, so it has not been active for more than a couple of years. I'd probably say maybe a decade at most. The trade union are very powerful. What's interesting is the industrialists, thanks to executives and generals, they have managed to be powerful for much of the game as well, despite the trade union winning the bulk of our elections. If I can get past all the movements here. As you can see, they won just under 70% of the vote in the last election. Still powerful industrialists. The bourgeoisie, all of these people are marginalized. The church is very marginalized for 2 reasons. The primary reason is because I kept flipping back and forth between separation and state atheism to try and make the entire world atheist. Eventually I got stuck. The trade union didn't want to ban religion anymore. And so I kind of got stuck with this really weird looking map mode where a lot of Europe and the New World are atheist. It's even in China, but places like India and Africa don't really have as much atheism. But if we go in here, it's pretty strong in some of these states. 88%, 93%, 48%. So that was quite fun. I would like to try this again on 1.10, going a few different ways. I'd like to try it with state religion to get the evangelical bonus for the work ethic. Because what's really fun here, I am not fully exploiting deposits yet. Texas has 150 to go. California's got 108. I believe if we go over to this, it's going to lag for a minute. Here's some of the lag for you. We have entire coal mines that aren't even built yet. I have places in Russia that I haven't even built a single coal mine level. I have 84 in Ural still. I have 80 in Perm. I'm nowhere near using up my coal. I have 40 iron deposits that aren't even built up yet. Cola up here, I've built a level 75. No one's even working in it. So I haven't quite hit the stage of complete resource scarcity yet in the game, but judging by coffee prices, I think coffee would be the first one to hit it if I didn't assume control and delete various buildings. Tea is kind of getting up there too, but not as hard. Both of them are under the Plantation Society, so it has been a fun time with the amount that they produce. 63 productivity coffee plantation. 308,000 coffee is made, 407,000 is consumed. It is, it's very fun. This is without a monopoly for the pricing. The throughput is very high, but about 14% of that is from a modifier that will go away. I love the rule of folk to be powerful and make this even better. It is hilarious to see. But I should show you the hyperstate of hyperstates. 8% of total GDP at 1.74 billion. With a population of 168 million, 77 million of them being North German, with, if I can keep it up here, 739,000 pops per month are becoming North German as time passes right now. This state has almost 1,800 automobiles, 1,500 food industries. The art academy exploded in the last couple of years, which kind of gave a revival to the aristocrats, which is very funny because we haven't said it to independent artists. So I just find that really funny. Art was really high in price. We need 93,000 to meet current demand. That's without art obsession. I would love to have an art obsession right now. The North Rhine was chosen because it has the Rhine River, and then the company headquarters of the North Rhine was here. So it just kind of made it a pretty good spot to build this in. A lot of our iron mines are very profitable because we're mining at 1.2 million iron and using over 1 million of it. The fact the numbers started reaching the millions is just so good. 1.72 million gourmet groceries. I believe automobiles are a lot lower at 270,000. Yeah, we aren't even using mass production yet because if I do that, the price just collapses. It did shift our GDP to 21.5 temporarily though, so I mean, there's some good use for it. I have a level 162 power plant here at 135 productivity. You know how maddening it is for a lot of people to manage power plants and make them profitable? This thing here is making 360,000 in a weekly balance with throughput bonus from a company. It is just, this is probably the greatest state I have made so far in my games. I'm sure people have made better states. I know YouTubers like Connor have gotten like, I think it was 150, or no, it might have been 250 million pops in Kazan. I don't remember the exact numbers. If I had more time past 1935, we could get this because the weekly migration here is from anywhere between 1 to 200k a week, sometimes higher depending on unemployment. But I mean, at this point, I'm starting to use automation here, and I can't employ the steel mill. This urban center is employing almost 20 million pops after public trams. I was going to use motor carriages, but last I checked, the weekly balance went very red, but it's actually doing fine this time, so I could use it now. I also, again, just have to note, I love how the arcades actually give more jobs than the jobs they take away. So not only are you removing laborers, you're actually getting more jobs than you otherwise have, which is kind of funny to me because I think that's where some of its inefficiency in its productivity comes from, but it's still really funny. I'm not even using electric streetlights here yet. I very much could for the electricity. It would be funny. But I would also collapse it and have millions of unemployed pops. I have things like this furniture manufacturer is set to make luxuries. Luxuries have gotten really expensive, actually. They're more expensive than regular clothes we make over 1 million of. Luxury clothes, I need over 500,000 of them. This employs 1.3 million with mechanized looms. But Bengal has the biggest one. Level 951 textile mill, paying an average wage of just under 8. With a weekly balance of just under 5 million at this current point. Partially because rubber is starting to get more expensive. We haven't fully exhausted rubber, but we have heavily exploited it. I don't know if all of them are fully employed. I do have them subsidized to make sure they get employed, or at least to make sure they're prioritized. But I think there are some in Brazil that might not be fully employed. I'm unsure. I haven't really been monitoring it. I kind of just set it up with a John Holton company and then just let it go. By the way, I do want to mention this company because I do think it's actually a really good company. It operates very similar to the generic company that gives you logs and rubber, but it gives a 10% plantations throughput bonus to all your plantations. So if you know the United Banana Company, that the special one that the Americas can make, this has half of its bonus. So pretty good, 10% to every plantation, and I do mean every plantation that is not wine or rubber, because wine is counted as agriculture, and then rubber is considered under the resource category. So even though it says plantation, it is not considered a plantation by the game. So as you can see, there is no bonus here from it, just the company's ownership. But if you go over to the coffee plantation, you see how we have 25 from Germany. That's because 10 of that is from the John Holt Company, 10 of that is from the Rule Folk, 5% of that is from the Sulfur Company in Sicily. Fun fact about it, by the way, you can establish this as long as you're not at war with Britain. That's just the requirement. You just need to own Sicily, 5 sulfur, don't be at war with Britain. That's why it has Anglo in it. You don't need to be friends with Britain, you just need to not fight them is all. And they'll let you have it. Unlike in Persia, where I think you need to have a better relationship, but I could be wrong about that. Pretty sure states like Baku aren't even, even Baku is not fully exploited at this point in time. I could probably hit 1 million oil and still not have fully exhausted it, because I am using, instead of the usual Baku Oil Company for the prestige oil, we are using the Wallachia, I might be mispronouncing that, the Romanian Oil Company instead, for the extra 20% throughput it provides. So yeah, my companies here are a bit weird. They are a bit strange. Obviously, Premium Foods was for the birth rate. You just got Gourmet on the side. Fabric Society was one I kind of fell on. I was not thinking I'd fall onto it, but I am so glad I did, because not only have livestock ranches and fabric cotton plantations been really good, it has supercharged the textile mills. Honestly, now that you can add textile mills to the Fabric Society, it is really good, because it gives a 10% throughput to textile mills on top of the ownership for another, with where I am, 55. So this company gives 65% to textile mills. If I had a powerful Protestant clergy, that bonus would be another 10% from their work ethic bonus. But it's still phenomenal. I don't think this is the best company combination to get the highest GDP. Obviously, things like automobiles make lots of money. And I'm kind of curious how this would work with cooperative ownership, just because the average standard of living would be higher, which we did actually cap out at 26.9 because of prestige goods. But when you load up a save file, prestige goods aren't calculated at the start. You do have to kind of like cycle through a week and have it recalculated, but the game will end before I reach that point. So everyone you see here, they are getting about a 3-point modifier from health. So average wealth levels are 3 levels lower, plus 2 on average from really just the gourmet groceries and the meat, because those are both prestige goods. And I'd also like to note, Germans make up about 13% of the global population. Han makes up just under 20%, and then in fourth is Russians at 3.93%. It has been a fun little ride here, because Brandenburg I was also building up. Brandenburg I was building it up as a joke, because I established 13,000 government administration buildings here to employ almost 20 million people just for the fun of it, with simple organization. They're in their own little version of bureaucratic hell. They don't even get to use paper. If I were to switch over and use paper, it would cost 20 million to manage, but I would have over 1 million in surplus bureaucracy, which is really funny. But we're gonna just not do that, even as paper skyrockets to 37% base price with that. Sounds hilarious. We don't need it. I'm just gonna quickly make it check and fix that. I would honestly argue, if you go harder on construction and harder on automation, you could probably get the GDP to be higher. The only issue is that when you hit that 20 average standard of living or go higher, your population is going to start cratering on its growth. It will start cratering. If this was at about 1.3%, we're making about 38 million pops where we're at right now instead of 22 million. That's how big the difference is now from just a 0.5 swing with how many pops we have. I don't know if there's anything else I really want to say here. This has just been really fun. I want to try it again with a different system of kind of government. I would still do corporate state. I would still do corporate state, because the max number of companies, you just cannot pass that up. It is honestly just way too good. I would never pass it up. I think I would always go corporate state by the end of the game, unless I was doing a hard, like, rule or role play to not have it. I really kind of want to see what this looks like with cooperative ownership, but I might save that for another time on 1.10 when we have the new laws as well and the new fervor system, see how that works. If you have any questions for this save, I do not mind at all answering. Actually, we never got the Haunting the World journal entry or Vigor and Greatness. I forgot to mention, I never, ever got a socialist, anarchist, or vanguardist or communist movement. I did have the fascist movement, but it died out. My fascist movement died. Just naturally. I didn't even suppress it. It just died out. I don't know why, but the moment I passed women's suffrage and it forced a recalculation with all the pops, it was just gone. I assume that's because they didn't have the people to stay relevant anymore after that. But with all that said, thank you for watching. I hope this was just amusing or entertaining for you to see just a really high GDP, really high budget numbers on very low taxes, even though I could tax so much more out of it. I could tax so much more. Let me know what you thought, and I will see you all next week when we play 1.10.